you imagine being in a delivery room and seeing your baby born with two faces? That actually happened in Indonesia, and the doctors there didn't know what to say. And it doesn't stop there.
So yeah. So both of our hair is fluffy today.
There are cases just as rare and unbelievable, like a young girl who cried tears made of crystal. These are the kinds of medical conditions so extraordinary, they left even the most experienced doctors completely stunned. Trez Johnson. Doctors were completely unprepared for someone like Trez Johnson, a boy whose very face seemed to rewrite the rules of medicine. Born in Missouri, United States on March 4, 2004, Trez entered the world with craniofacial duplication, a condition so rare that only a handful of cases have ever been recorded. Parts of his face were doubled, 2 nostrils, eyes set wide apart, an unusual skull shape, even a cleft that split into his nasal cavity. Most babies born like this do not survive, yet Trez clung to life in ways no one expected. From the first moments, it was clear his life would be extraordinary. Doctors warned his parents, Brandy and Joshua Johnson, that survival beyond infancy was unlikely. He battled hundreds of seizures every day, his brain struggling under the weight of such a rare condition. Cognitive delays made ordinary milestones feel like insurmountable mountains. Yet through it all, Trez showed sparks of strength that left doctors both amazed and confounded. His parents refused to surrender to despair. They orchestrated surgeries to reconstruct his skull, closed his cleft, and managed his seizures with medication and cannabis oil. Slowly, the seizures that once numbered in the hundreds dwindled to about 40 per day. Trez began to explore the world in ways doctors had never imagined, defying predictions at every turn. He celebrated his 18th birthday in 2022, a triumph almost unheard of for someone with diprosopis. Every smile, every laugh, every small victory was a reminder to the medical team that life can surprise even the most experienced physicians. Trey was not just surviving, he was living, pushing boundaries with quiet courage. When Trez Johnson passed away on September 9, 2025, at 21 years old, the shock rippled through the medical community. He had challenged every textbook assumption, lived far beyond expectations, and left a legacy of resilience and wonder. Dei Koswara. Dei Koswara, the man the world would come to know as the Tree Man of Indonesia, stunned doctors from the moment his condition was first documented. Born in Indonesia in 1975, he developed thick, bark-like growths across his hands, feet, and face that no physician had ever seen progress so extensively. What shocked doctors most was not just the appearance of the growths, but the way his body defied medical expectation. The warts, caused by a rare immune disorder called epidermodysplasia verruciformis, fused and hardened into massive wood-like formations without causing the usual infections or tissue death doctors would anticipate. Epidermodysplasia verruciformis is exceptionally rare, leaving patients defenseless against specific strains of human papillomavirus. In Didi's case, the virus ran unchecked, transforming what would normally be small warts into grotesque structures weighing kilograms. Physicians were astonished by how his immune system could fail so completely in controlling the virus, yet leave him alert, cognitively intact, and able to endure immense physical burden. Everyday movements became exhausting. Grasping objects or walking steadily was a struggle, yet he remained remarkably functional in many ways. In 2008, Dr. Anthony Gaspari, a dermatologist from the United States, confirmed what had puzzled doctors for decades. Didi lacked a critical antigen required to suppress HPV, explaining the relentless growths. Surgical teams removed more than 6 kilograms of tissue in multiple operations, restoring partial function temporarily. Yet even after surgery, the warts slowly returned, showing just how aggressive and unrelenting the condition was. For doctors, the case was shocking on multiple levels. The sheer scale and speed of the growths, the unusual resilience of his body despite the deformities, and the biological mechanism that had never been observed in such intensity. Dei Koswara's willingness to participate in studies turned a medical anomaly into a profound lesson. He passed away in 2016 at the age of 42, leaving the medical world with one of the most extreme documented examples of epidermodysplasia verruciformis and a clearer understanding of the rare, devastating interplay between virus and immune system. Yaya Eljabali. Doctors knew something was profoundly wrong the moment Yaya Eljabali was born, because no human face is meant to begin life unfinished. Yaya was born in a small village near Tangier, Morocco, with one of the most severe craniofacial malformations doctors had ever seen. During early fetal development, the bones of his face failed to fuse. He was born without eyes, without a formed nose, and without a functional mouth. Parts of his skull were also missing, leaving sections of his brain protected by nothing more than skin. For physicians, the shock was immediate. Conditions like this are extraordinarily rare, and survival beyond infancy is often unlikely. For years, Yaya lived hidden from the outside world. Sunlight, dust, and infection posed constant danger. His parents were told repeatedly by local doctors that nothing could be done. There were no specialists nearby equipped to attempt reconstruction, and the risks were overwhelming. Without eyes or a proper airway, even basic care was a daily struggle. Doctors feared that any intervention could end his life rather than save it. Everything changed when a Moroccan woman living in Melbourne, Fatima Baraka, saw Yaya's photograph shared online. She was stunned that a child could be born this way and still be alive. Moved to act, she organized medical support and helped bring Yaya to Australia. At the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne, surgeons faced a case unlike anything in their careers. Yaya had no prior medical records, no history of anesthesia, and anatomy that defied standard surgical planning. A team led by Professor Tony Holmes undertook an 18-hour reconstructive operation. Surgeons rebuilt facial structures from scratch, creating a nose, forming an upper jaw, and protecting exposed areas of the skull. The risks were immense. Blood loss, infection, and neurological damage were constant threats. Doctors were shocked not only by the complexity of the surgery, but by how well Yaya's body endured it. When the operation ended, the transformation was staggering. Yaya could breathe more safely. His preserved vocal cords allowed him to begin forming sounds and eventually speech. For the first time, doctors saw a future where survival was possible. Tuanzi? Few doctors could imagine a case as staggering as Tuanzi's, a young woman from Xiamen, Fujian province in China, whose legs seemed to rewrite the rules of human anatomy. Born with severe congenital genutservatum, her knees bent sharply backward, leaving her unable to stand or walk for the first 26 years of her life. Most orthopedic specialists never encounter such an extreme deformity in their entire careers, and when Tuanzi was first examined, many believed that no treatment could ever restore her mobility. The rarity and severity of her condition alone left doctors in awe. Life for Tuanzi was a constant exercise in ingenuity. She learned to crawl using her arms, building extraordinary upper body strength, and found ways to contribute to her family despite immense limitations. Walking across a room, climbing stairs, or simply keeping her balance were challenges that most people never even think about. Each day reminded her, and those around her, of the profound physical barriers she faced, and the emotional weight of a life without mobility pressed heavily on her spirit. Her story changed when her condition gained attention beyond China. Through charity groups, she traveled to Hualien Tzu-Chi Hospital in Taiwan, where a team of orthopedic surgeons, experts in complex reconstructions, took on a challenge most would deem impossible. Over several months, Tuanzi endured multiple intricate surgeries that realigned bones, rebuilt her knees, and gradually straightened her legs. The procedures demanded surgical precision, advanced techniques, and relentless rehabilitation, with each step forward hard-won. Then, against all odds, she stood on her feet and walked for the first time as an adult. The transformation stunned doctors and specialists alike. Sam Burns. Sam Burns, a young man from Foxborough, Massachusetts, challenged everything doctors thought they knew about aging. The signs appeared before childhood had even finished, and they shocked physicians in ways few cases ever could. Diagnosed with Hutchinson-Gilford progeria syndrome, Sam lived with one of the rarest and most devastating genetic conditions ever documented. His body aged at an accelerated pace while his mind remained entirely intact, leaving doctors stunned not only by the speed of his physical decline, but by the window he provided into the fragile mechanics of human aging. Progeria is caused by a single genetic mutation that produces an abnormal protein called progerin. This protein attacks the structure of cells, leading to rapid deterioration. Children with the condition develop characteristics usually seen only in old age, including brittle bones, stiff joints, hair loss, and severe cardiovascular disease. Fewer than 1 in 4 million children are born with progeria, and most do not survive past their early teens. For doctors, encountering even one patient in a career is extraordinary, which made Sam's condition particularly striking. What amazed specialists even more was the contrast between his body and his mind. Sam's intelligence, humor, and emotional insight remained untouched. Cardiologists watched arteries that looked decades older than his 17 years, hardened and narrowed far too early. His scans and blood work provided researchers with a rare window into the accelerated effects of aging, compressing decades of physiological decline into a single lifetime. Even amid such medical gravity, Sam chose to live boldly. He spoke publicly about his illness with composure, explaining the science of his own body in ways that awed doctors, researchers, and audiences alike. The documentary Life, according to Sam, followed his days, showing the fight of a teenager and his family, both medical professionals, who worked tirelessly to advance experimental treatments and understanding of progeria. Sam passed away in 2014 at 17 years old. His life, brief yet luminous, left a lasting mark on medicine. He forced doctors to confront aging not as an abstract concept, but as a biological process they could study, observe, and perhaps one day influence. Sam's story remains a testament to resilience, intellect, and the astonishing courage of a young life lived fully despite relentless odds. Hazna Miselmani. Doctors thought they had seen every eye condition imaginable, until a girl in Lebanon began shedding tears that cut like glass. In 1996, Hazna Miselmani, reportedly 12 years old, was brought in for something no textbook had prepared anyone for. Several times a day, small crystal-like shards would emerge directly from her eyes. They were translucent, sharp enough to scratch surfaces, yet her eyes showed almost no redness, no infection, and no lasting damage. For physicians trained to expect liquid tears, not solid objects, this alone was enough to make them stop and rethink. Ophthalmologists who examined the fragments confirmed what everyone had feared, showing that they were real and glass-like in structure, not dried tears or residue. That revelation deepened the shock. Human tear ducts are not supposed to produce crystalline material. No known disease, metabolic disorder, or environmental factor could explain how this could happen without causing severe injury. Tests yielded no answers, and each visit ended with more questions than solutions. What unsettled doctors most was Hazna herself. She did not seem to be in constant pain. There were no signs that foreign objects had been inserted. Her vision stayed largely intact. The crystals appeared, fell away, and her eyes looked almost unchanged. That contradiction alone went against every basic principle they had learned. News agencies picked up the story, sparking debates among specialists. Some speculated about rare mineral secretions, others suspected contamination. Yet no peer-reviewed study ever confirmed a diagnosis, and over time skepticism grew. Some whispered about trickery, but no formal investigation ever resolved the case. Hazna Miselmani's story remains unforgettable because it exposed the limits of medical certainty. Whether a genuine biological anomaly or an elaborate fabrication, it forced doctors to face a truth that can be uncomfortable. Sometimes the human body behaves in ways that science cannot yet explain. Joseph Carey Merrick. Doctors were unprepared for what Joseph Carey Merrick's body revealed, not only because of how extreme it was, but because no medical framework at the time could explain it. Born in Leicester in the 19th century, Merrick appeared healthy at birth. Within his first years, however, abnormal growths began to reshape his body in ways that defied known disease patterns. Skin thickened, bones expanded unevenly, and limbs grew at different rates. As these changes became impossible to ignore, the public began referring to him as the Elephant Man, a name that would follow him for the rest of his life. Modern medicine believes Merrick lived with Proteus syndrome, an exceptionally rare genetic mosaic disorder that causes tissues to grow uncontrollably. Fewer than a few hundred cases have ever been documented worldwide. What shocked doctors was not only the severity of Merrick's deformities, but the fact that the condition did not affect his intelligence. Despite being labeled and reduced to a nickname that emphasized his appearance, his cognitive abilities remained fully intact, creating a stark contrast between how he looked and who he truly was. As his condition progressed, everyday tasks became nearly impossible. The weight of his head forced his neck into painful positions. His right arm grew so large that it became functionally useless, while his left hand remained small and delicate. Walking required enormous effort, and speech was difficult due to facial overgrowth. Medical professionals of the era had no treatment, no clear diagnosis, and no understanding of why his body continued to change. This uncertainty made the case of the man known publicly as the Elephant Man both alarming and compelling within scientific circles. Rejected by society and unable to earn a living through conventional means, Merrick was displayed in traveling shows, advertised almost exclusively under the name Elephant Man. Crowds paid to stare at what they could not comprehend. His condition drew attention not for compassion, but for spectacle. This exploitation disturbed many doctors, particularly Frederick Treves, a London surgeon who eventually intervened and brought Merrick to the London hospital. There, for the first time, he was treated as a patient rather than a curiosity. Treves documented Merrick's anatomy in detail, attempting to classify a condition that seemed to rewrite the rules of human growth. Each examination raised new questions. Why did certain tissues expand while others remained unchanged? Why did the disorder spare his mind? Why did it progress in patterns that no textbook described? These unanswered questions left physicians unsettled, aware they were witnessing something medicine could barely define. Joseph Merrick died at 27 years old, likely from complications related to the weight and structure of his body. His skeleton was preserved for study, becoming a lasting symbol of medical uncertainty and human dignity. Doctors were shocked not only by the man the world called the Elephant Man, but by what his life revealed about the limits of medical knowledge and the cost of misunderstanding what it means to be human. A two-faced baby. In Indonesia, a baby was born with a condition that stunned even the most experienced doctors. Galang Andika arrived in May with not one but two moving faces on a single head, a condition so rare it occurs in only 1 in 250,000 births. What makes his case even more extraordinary and dangerous is that he shares one body with his twin sibling who never fully developed. This left him with an extra brain and a vulnerability that could prove fatal. Doctors also discovered that Galang has hydrocephalus, a buildup of fluid in the skull that can lead to long-term brain damage, disabilities, or even death. His parents say the news hit them like a lightning bolt. During pregnancy, ultrasounds had shown a large head in a breech position, but nothing could have prepared them for the severity of his condition at birth. They were advised to take Galang to a hospital in Jakarta for urgent treatment, but the cost of care was far beyond their reach. Forced to bring him home, they now face the heartbreaking reality that every day is a struggle. He cannot drink milk properly and is losing weight, and doctors warn that his chances of survival are slim. All they can do is hold him close and hope for a miracle. Galang's story is a powerful reminder of the fragility of life, the limits of medicine, and the enduring strength of parents who face the unimaginable with love and courage. Eli Thompson. The delivery room fell silent when doctors realized this baby had been born without a nose. Eli Thompson was born in 2015 with congenital arrhythmia, an almost unimaginably rare condition in which a baby is born without a nose. Fewer than 1 in nearly 200 million births are affected, making most doctors spend their entire careers without ever seeing a single case. The shock was immediate. The nose is not just cosmetic. It is central to breathing, smell, and early facial development. Its complete absence forced physicians into uncharted territory from the very first breath. Against expectation, Eli could breathe through his mouth, but survival was fragile. Doctors performed a tracheostomy to secure his airway, a measure usually reserved for extreme emergencies. Even with intervention, every moment carried risk. Feeding was difficult. Respiratory infections posed constant danger. Specialists monitored him closely, knowing there was no established medical playbook for a child born this way. What stunned doctors even more was how isolated his condition truly was. Congenital arrhythmia is often linked to disruptions during early embryonic development, when facial structures form from delicate neural crest cells. In some cases, it appears alongside brain abnormalities or hormonal deficiencies that affect puberty and growth. Eli's scans revealed how narrowly his development had missed a cascade of additional complications, a reminder of how thin the line between survivable and fatal can be in rare genetic conditions. At home, his parents lived between hospital visits and moments of quiet awe. They described overwhelming fear mixed with fierce love, choosing to share Eli's journey publicly so others could understand the reality behind rare conditions. Photos of Eli showed a baby who smiled, reacted to voices, and responded to affection, challenging assumptions that appearance defines life's value. Doctors watched him closely, not just as a patient, but as a living lesson. His existence exposed gaps in medical knowledge, highlighting how little science understands about facial development and genetic signaling in the earliest weeks of life. Eli passed away at just 2 years old due to complications related to his condition. Yet in that short life, he left a lasting impact. He shocked doctors not because he lacked a nose, but because he survived it all, and because his brief presence forced medicine and the world to confront both its limits and its humanity. Lizzie Velasquez. Lizzie Velasquez was born with an extraordinarily rare congenital disorder that left her unable to gain weight. She carried almost no body fat, a physiological anomaly observed in only a handful of people worldwide. Unlike typical metabolic disorders, her body metabolized calories at an impossible rate, leaving her frail and small despite a normal diet and activity. Medical texts contained little precedent, and even specialists struggled to fully explain how her body defied conventional understanding. From her earliest years, the challenges were constant. Basic physical development followed an entirely different pattern, requiring careful attention from her family and doctors. Normal milestones that other children met with ease became tests of endurance. Her immune system, energy reserves, and muscular strength were all affected, forcing daily life to be measured with meticulous care. Doctors were shocked not just by the rarity of her condition, but by the resilience of her mind in the face of relentless physical constraints. Public scrutiny added another layer of complexity. Lizzie faced bullying and harassment, often judged solely on appearance without understanding the biology behind it. Yet she transformed this struggle into a platform, speaking openly about her experiences and using her story to inspire millions. Her life became both a case study and a testament to courage, showing how determination and intellect can transcend the limits imposed by an extraordinary medical condition. Medical observers were intrigued by the precision of her metabolism, which seemed to operate outside known patterns. Nutritional interventions, careful monitoring, and specialized exercise routines only partially mitigated the risks, emphasizing how unique her physiology truly was. Each consultation and examination revealed more questions than answers, making her a living subject for both curiosity and study. Her condition forced the medical community to confront the limits of current understanding, highlighting the gaps in knowledge about rare metabolic disorders and energy regulation. Despite the constant vigilance required for survival, Lizzie's life unfolded with remarkable purpose. She became an advocate, author, and motivational speaker, turning what could have been a story defined by limitation into one of empowerment. Her existence challenged assumptions about human physiology and sparked discussion about the social and medical treatment of individuals with extreme rare conditions. While Lizzie's condition defined her outward appearance and daily life, it also reveals a deeper truth. The human body can harbor complexities that astonish even the most experienced physicians. The combination of rarity, resilience, and public impact makes her story unforgettable and sets the stage for the exploration of hidden battles that unfold within the body's own chemistry. Sammy Basso. Doctors did not expect a child with progeria to reach adulthood, yet Sammy Basso kept doing exactly that. Born in Schio, Italy, and diagnosed at just 2 years old with Hutchinson-Gilford progeria syndrome, a condition that causes rapid aging, Sammy lived far beyond the life expectancy physicians had been taught to accept. Most patients with progeria rarely survive into their teenage years, making Sammy's eventual lifespan of 28 years a medical anomaly that drew global attention. Progeria is caused by a rare genetic mutation that leads to the buildup of an abnormal protein known as progerin. This protein damages cells and accelerates physical aging at a dramatic rate. Children with the condition develop hardened arteries, fragile bones, joint stiffness, and cardiovascular disease usually seen only in elderly patients. Doctors were stunned by how aggressively the condition reshaped Sammy's body while leaving his intellect completely untouched. His scans showed arteries under stress decades ahead of schedule, yet his mind remained sharp, curious, and deeply analytical. What shocked the medical community even further was Sammy's decision to confront the disease through science. Rather than remaining a subject of research, he became an active contributor. He studied molecular biology and dedicated his academic life to understanding the very mutation responsible for his condition. Physicians and researchers found themselves collaborating with a patient who could discuss cellular mechanisms, experimental treatments, and clinical data with clarity and precision. Sammy participated in multiple clinical trials aimed at slowing the progression of progeria. These trials offered researchers rare long-term data that had previously been impossible to collect due to the short lifespans associated with the condition. His extended survival allowed doctors to observe how progeria evolves over time, providing insights into aging, cardiovascular disease, and cellular degeneration that could not be replicated in laboratories. Beyond research, Sammy became a powerful advocate for rare disease awareness. He spoke publicly, met world leaders, and even had an audience with Pope Francis. His presence challenged assumptions, showing that a condition defined by limitation did not have to define purpose. For many doctors, the shock was no longer limited to his medical charts. It was rooted in the contradiction between his physical fragility and his influence on global conversations about health and science. When Sammy Basso passed away in October 2024 from complications related to progeria, the medical world reflected on what his life had revealed. He did not simply outlive expectations. He reshaped them. His case expanded scientific understanding of progeria and forced doctors to reconsider how much remains unknown about aging and genetic disease. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.